fight. We don't have to kill. Everybody in the whole wide world really just needs to chill. No, we don't have to fuss, no, we don't have to fight.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Just Chill with Oliver George. This is episode 34 now. The first time we've been back in studio in two or three months now. Very excited. But before I get to the guest and we keep moving along with the episode, I want to remind you that if you're watching this on YouTube right now and you would prefer an audio-only version, you can get that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And vice versa. If you did not know there was a visual side to the show, please come check us out on YouTube. Subscribe on any platform. I truly appreciate it. The subscription numbers have been going up over the last couple of months. All you Kenny vs. Spenny fans, thank you. That definitely helped. But I really do appreciate every single person that joins into this show's audience, because I can just reach more people, and that's what I'm going for here. So without further ado, you're from Montreal, so that's sort of appropriate. The guest this episode is Simone Holder.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm doing okay.
Well, yeah, we're all kind of struggling a bit.
Exactly. I'm like so over the pandemic, but it is what it is.
I feel like I know you pretty well, even though like we really have not spent a lot of time. But we had one long conversation on your show back in the summer.
Yeah.
It was like 2 hours.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. Yeah,
and that's why I wasn't that worried about today. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I stress a lot. I still wrote notes, but like I felt more comfortable coming into this, knowing like, all right, we're already gelling.
Each other, yeah,
we're good.
Because it's true. We gelled right away, like instantly. You know, the
you don't always find that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you get like awkward.
Awkward pauses.
But before I met you that way, I was becoming aware of you because you were really, really into comedy and really into grinding. Like you grinded harder than a lot of people would have, and myself included. I've never been good at that part of comedy, really plugging away and, 3 times a week or whatever and driving to other cities. And you've just really been killing it,
Thank you. Thank you.
What's like a year and a half for you at this point, or?
No, it was a year in September. So it's been like 14 months, that I've been doing it.
Okay, so I read a bit on your website. I know that you have been a comedy fan your whole life.
Yes.
But when you started comedy, how old were you?
I was 52.
So
when I started.
What at 52 pushes you finally to take that step,
Well, I'd wanted to do it since I was like 15, but then like life got in the way and, did other things. But it was over the course of a couple of years. Like, I moved to Ottawa. It'll be 2 years in February. So February of 2019. I moved to Ottawa. And prior to that, a few months before, I'd lost my mom. And a few years before that, I'd lost my dad. And so February of 2019, it was just, everything was new. I just lost my mom, adjusting to both parents being gone. New job, new city, new everything. And the urge to do it had been coming and going for decades. And when I lived in Toronto before I moved here. And I think I signed up and canceled God knows how many times for a course similar to what I did here. And so when I got here last summer, I was like, there's nothing stopping me. I don't want it to sound like my parents stopped me or anything, but
no.
I was like, you know what? Anything scary that's happened to me that could have happened has happened already. Like the things that scared me the most, losing my parents, happened.
So how can this be any worse?
Exactly. Nothing can be any worse than that. So
that was my same situation after a divorce. I was like, finally like,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm pretty hurting already, or I've been through a lot of this crap recently.
Right.
Doing stand-up and it not going well, I don't think is going to be that devastating. Or,
Exactly. And it was also a bit of, I felt like I was living in fear, like everything, I was just motivated by fear, it felt like. I was more concerned with what people would think or what people would say than what I felt or what I thought about something. And I was like, can we swear on this?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was like, fuck that.
Yeah.
I want to live for me. Because I just felt like I was existing and I wasn't really enjoying life. And I was like, you know what? You're 52. You're getting old. You don't have that much time left. Like, enjoy whatever time you have left. Do all the stuff you want to do.
And especially if you've been fantasizing about
Exactly.
doing stand-up since you were 15, that's a
Exactly.
long-ass time to be.
Exactly. It was
you
like
know.
40 years, and it just kept, and it never went away. Like, it came up, it would go away, come up, go away. And I said, I have to at least try it.
Yeah. What do you have to lose, right?
Exactly. Nothing to lose. And, I half expected it to be like, okay, I took this course, I did a show, it's out of my system, it's good. But that
You got
didn't
the
happen.
bug.
I was bitten.
It's much like a lot of people who get I'll just get one tattoo.
Yeah, and then they're recovered.
You see them like 2 years later and they got sleeves and shit. Yeah.
Exactly.
Man. So that must have been, well, first of all, you took a course, which I found was interesting because I didn't know that. You actually took like a how to do comedy.
Yeah,
kind of.
I took it. It was sponsored by Absolute Comedy. It was given by Pierre Bro.
Oh, cool.
And because I had no idea, like,
Where
how
do
to
you
get
even
started
start? Yeah.
and, where do you go and things like that. I didn't know how to write a joke. I knew I was funny. I knew I could say funny things, but I knew that there's an art to it.
How do you formulate that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me take this course and at least learn the basics.
That's smart.
Yeah. And I was hooked. Like, he put us on stage right away. And I was like, oh, the angels singing. And I loved every
Like
minute
no
of it.
audience at the beginning, obviously.
It was just a class.
Whoever's
yeah.
in. How
Yeah.
big was the class?
I think we were, that first class, a couple people dropped out along the way.
Okay.
But that first class, I think we were about 14.
That's a good number.
Yeah. And then by the time we did our final show, which was, I think 6 weeks later, we were 7 or 8.
Okay. But the final show, you guys obviously had an audience at
Yeah.
that point to kind of.
Yeah, it was a warm audience because
Test
it's
you.
friends and family and
Yeah.
everything, but still, it was a real show.
Well, and the previous classes where there's only the 14 people in the audience, that's
Yeah.
also very true to comedy sometimes.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Wow. First of all, I want to just sidebar here for a second. Probably my favorite question anyone can ask me on this show is, can we swear on this? I love just saying like, fuck yeah. I don't
Because I
know.
never know, because it's like
Everyone's got
yeah.
their own platform.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Well,
and I just
that's-
want to be respectful. Like if
Of course. No, I respect that you asked me that. That's very nice. But at the same time, it's so satisfying to just tell people like, yes,
yeah, you can let her rip.
If Darren Frost can say cunt 45 times in one episode, then you can say fuck once or whatever, you know. But it's something that I've always made sort of like a staple of when I set out to do this. So that must have been a pretty like powerful experience when you actually did your first like big, performance
yeah.
in front of people. I read on your website that you kind of like broke down afterwards.
I did, because I was nervous up until Pierre called my name, and even like actually as I was walking towards the stage, I felt it going away, and then once I got on stage, I felt okay. And then when I finished, I was like, just all this like tear your shirt open sort of thing.
Yeah.
And like people were coming up to me and like congratulating me and stuff like that. A guy hit on me and I didn't realize till hours later, because I was just like,
Too jazzed, yeah.
Yeah, I was so jazzed. And then when I left the club and I had parked across the street, when I got into my car, I bawled. I just broke into tears and just sobbed for like
Overwhelmed.
I was overwhelmed because I was like, oh my God, I finally did it. I loved it. I did well. My sister and brother-in-law had come. Like I invited like 20 people and they all came. Everyone I invited came.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I hadn't been in Ottawa that long. So I had my sister, my brother-in-law, and 2 close family friends who came up with my sister and brother-in-law. And everyone else was who I had met in like the 7 months that I'd been in Ottawa. Like some people from work, some people from the gym that I was going to, and they all came.
That's cool.
I
Good
was
support
just,
system.
Yeah, it was a huge support system. Because I remember when I called Absolute to reserve, and they're like, how many? I was like, 20. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, I'm sure.
Nice.
And I said, I'll eat the price for whoever doesn't show up, but I need 20, please.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and everybody showed.
I'm sure the club loved that too. Wow.
Yeah, so, it was very overwhelming. It was really, like, I didn't sleep until the following night. This was a Monday night, and I probably got home around 11, and I didn't sleep till, like, Tuesday night. I took the day off from work.
It is kind of like a weird release
Yeah.
Like, as soon as it's over and you walk off the stage,
Yeah.
and all this like tension just raises off your shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure when you're like an expert and you do it all the time, then maybe you don't get that anymore. But I only kind of do it once in a while whenever I get the urge. So I always still get like wrecked with anxiety beforehand. But that feeling, that's one of the reasons I love going up like early in a show, because there's nothing better than doing your set, having it go well, and then getting to kick back and just enjoy
relax
a comedy
it.
show.
Yeah.
Like, that's another thing I read that you wrote that I really related to was going to shows by yourself. I used to do that all the time, and I honestly think it's probably my favorite way to go to a comedy show, because, you know, when you bring a lot of people, you get distracted. Some people aren't comedy fans maybe in the same way, and they're a little more chatty, or they pull their phone out and embarrass you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, there's just something you can totally lock in and really focus on the art form, you know?
Oh, yeah, because I've gone, for years, I'd go by myself. You know, even when I was living in Toronto, I would go, there's a Yuck Yucks there, I'd go there. I went to Absolute. I used to live across the street from Absolute, maybe like 12 years ago.
Cool.
And I would go to shows there, just show up and, you know, table for one and just take it in. Occasionally I'd go with friends, but I always preferred to go by myself.
I kind of feel the same way about movies.
Yeah.
Not that anyone's going to them these days, but I love going to the cinema or whatever, and I've always found, I mean, certain people I don't mind going with Kelly, or like people I know that aren't going to be annoying or whatever, but every time I go alone, it's like just so much more immersive.
Yeah, I agree. Like nowadays I go, I still go alone, but
now you got people saying, "Hey, Simone!"
Yeah, exactly.
All the other comics recognize you and shit. Yeah,
exactly. Or I go with other comics who are also locked in, you know, that
cool.
we're paying attention, and then we'll talk about it after or whatever. But
you've lost your anonymity amongst the local Ottawa comics, that's for sure. You can't just blend in.
I can't just slip in.
Well, that's just a testament to how hard you've been grinding, though. Like, you know, you do a lot more than most people, especially during quarantine or COVID or whatever.
Yeah.
I saw you driving to Kingston and driving to Montreal, and like, you know, you're always trying, so that's cool.
Yeah, because I know at one point when we were in full lockdown, when everything and everyone was shut down, I felt myself just getting, like, I deal with anxiety and depression and things like that, and I felt myself like circling the drain type thing, and I was like, I have to do something. So I tried making videos, and I'm like, I don't make videos. That's not my thing. And I just joined a whole bunch of groups, online groups on Facebook, like outside of our Ottawa community. Like I joined the Toronto groups, I joined Edmonton groups in the States.
And you were doing virtual shows?
Yeah, I did virtual shows.
Which, give me a bit of that, because I have not done one, and you hear a lot of trash talking about them from like all the pros or whatever, that they think it's stupid Zoom shows.
No,
have you had good times?
I've had good times. Like, it's weird. I'm not going to say it's not weird, and it's not the same as being on stage, but I think that all the shows that I did put me in a you know, I hit the ground running. I feel like when things opened up again.
You always learn something from every performance.
Exactly, and it's still a performance. Yeah. You still have an audience. It's still a performance. You still get to work out. So
was the audience just the other comics, or was there actually shows where you would have people just...
Sometimes. Most of the time, it was just other comics.
Yeah.
Like, I was on one that I used to do weekly, and it was based out of LA. And I think it was one of the longest open mics I'd ever attended. It was like 3 hours. Because it was like 100 comics just wanted to participate, you know, and you'd get a time slot, and then you'd like jump in. Sort of thing, yeah. So it was really, really weird. But yeah, most of the time it was just other comics, and other times it was, there might be a few audience members, but for me, it didn't matter if it was all comics, because I didn't know any of them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You know, they were all new. Exactly.
A lot of honest feedback.
Exactly. And I found it was interesting because, you know, like, their topical humor is very different to our topical humor. Say, like, dealing with the States. And they were saying... they were, like, say, making political jokes that just went over my head, you know, because we, like, at least with American politics, we get a very big picture.
Yes.
Big picture.
They talk about some senator, and you're like,
yeah, exactly. Or they talk about, like, a specific department, and I'm like, well, what the hell is that sort of thing, you know? So I know a couple of times I was like, I missed the joke because I didn't get the, you know, it was too specific.
Yeah. Well, and probably work the other way too. You can't be dropping so many jokes about Parliament.
Right,
People
right,
be like, we don't
exactly.
get your Canadian shit.
Right, because one of my jokes, I modified it. Or I can't remember if I modified it or if I took it out, because here, I had a bit about how I went to Jamaica right before it shut down, and that I forgot to turn my dating app off, and so I was like pinging off all over the island, and all these men were trying to connect with me, and the punchline was like they're all like eager for a permanent resident card, but they wouldn't know what that is.
Yeah, that's true.
They wouldn't know what
called
that.
something else.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
Yeah,
or has
green
another,
card in the
or
States.
something, and it's just not the same joke. So I can't remember if I said green card or what. I don't remember what I said, but I remember thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to have to modify that, either modify it or take it out, because it's too specific to Canada.
Yeah.
And they might not get it.
That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
bet
it
there's
was
even like
interesting.
other parts of Canada you could go to where certain jokes aren't going to land.
Right.
Like one of the things I always see a lot of comics do is, which usually works, is before they do a set somewhere, they find out like the local haunts or whatever, and then they name drop some shit that gets the audience.
Yeah,
all
it gets all jazzed.
Yeah, it's a really smart move.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I know last April or May, before I started comedy, I went to see Eliza Schlesinger.
I can't say her name.
Yeah, I can't say her name.
I thought it was. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's Schlesinger or something.
She's funny though.
She's
funny.
hilarious.
Yeah.
And so I've seen all her specials on Netflix, and I think she's hilarious. And I just happened to find out that she was playing at the NAC.
Oh, nice.
On this particular date, and I was like, oh, I hope there's still tickets. So I got tickets. I was sitting front row, and she was amazing. But what she said, and I remember thinking that's really, really smart, and it's a smart way to connect with your audience and stuff, is she said she always tries to get there like a day or two before her performance and just walk around, drive around, talk to people, go into restaurants, just soak it in and get like a feel of the area, feel of the people, and then she can incorporate it into her act somehow. And I was like, that's really brilliant. Smart. That's really smart.
You see like people kill with like the random comment like, yeah, I saw this guy down at Freddy's Crab Shack or whatever, and people are like, oh no, he didn't. Yeah, that's funny, but it works.
Like I saw Sebastian Maniscalco.
Okay, yeah.
I love him, and I saw him. Right now, I saw him here last November, but the first time I saw him was about a year and a half before in Toronto, and he made a reference to Woodbridge. It's part of the GTA, and it's got a very high population of Italians.
Okay.
And so he was like, said blah 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 Woodbridge, and this was at the ACC. I thought the roof was going to cave in. Woodbridge, he said Woodbridge.
It's crazy how people respond to that stuff. It's like a shout out, yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's fun. It's fun when they do that, and you can relate to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a smart move for any comic,
Definitely. I did a show with Nick Burden, and
I love him. He's so
very
good.
funny. He's got good energy.
Yeah.
And it was out in like past the city limits kind of thing. It was like we had to drive. It was a restaurant. It was not like in the middle of nowhere, but it was a little bit outside of Ottawa. And I guess he grew up somewhere around there, so it worked out very well for him because it turned out some lady who was on her phone at some point, he kind of called her out, and then it turned out that he went to school with her daughter, and she was on the phone with her daughter, so he started saying like, oh, tell her I said this or what. I don't remember the total thing, but it was really, really funny, and it was that same connection with the audience that he just did a little sniffing, and all of a sudden he was like connected to somebody.
Exactly.
It made it so funny for the rest of the room, even though I didn't grow up around there. It was just funny to see that connection taking place.
Exactly.
Well, I want to ask you, for someone who's been doing comedy for just over a year, what would you, advice-wise, what would you say you've learned in that year? And if someone who was just about to start, like you were, a year and 2 months ago or whatever, what would you give advice-wise to that person, or to past Simone even,
I would say to just do your stuff. Like don't try to be somebody else. Because I know whenever we start, you've got an image of your favorite comedian, you want to emulate their style and stuff like that, that you'll get your own style. And to not let other comics bully you.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah,
weird
don't let
pressure.
anybody like try and intimidate you or try and bully you, because I had some of that. I dealt with some of that.
Really? Eh?
Yeah.
Like what? I mean, without naming names.
Yeah.
Whatever, like what did
well,
you do?
in this particular thing, I got hate mail. I got a hate comment on my website, and I don't know who did. To this day, I don't know who did it, but it was like so specific. I'm like, this is someone who knows me.
Someone from Ottawa.
Yeah,
for sure.
this is someone who knows me. This is someone who's seen my act, and they were just really insulting and condescending and just rude.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Because you're like such a friendly, mellow, easygoing person. I don't know whose feathers you would rile. Like,
Exactly.
that's very strange to me.
Yeah, so I so just things like that, because it rattled me so badly that I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. You know, and then I was like, no, fuck them.
That's the
You
right
know?
attitude.
Yeah, because I was like, you know, after like the shock and everything wore off, I was like, you know, someone, instead of focusing on what they need to do or focusing on their stuff, they're focusing on me. You know, and they're wasting their time when they could be doing whatever it is to benefit themselves.
Yeah.
You know, to hurl insults at me.
So first of all, it's not a healthy individual. But
Right.
Second of all, it is kind of like you must be doing something right.
Yeah.
If you're gaining hate mail.
Exactly, because I didn't see it like that at first, and I remember telling one of my friends, and she was like, "Good." I'm
Yeah.
like, "What's wrong? What do you mean good?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "That means you're
Like, I just got anthrax in an envelope. This is not good.
Exactly, I just got anthrax. Exactly. And she's like, you're irritating somebody because you're doing well, and someone has a problem with that.
And they may be sexist or racist or something,
exactly.
and that might be fueling it. But,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, that kind of ties into a question I want to ask you, which was, how did you find doing normal stand-up, let's call it, versus when you did the competitions? Because I know it's I've done a few myself, and I find it's very different than when you just show up to do your regular scheduled 6 minutes on a Tuesday or whatever. Like,
I didn't know what to expect with that. I really didn't know what to expect. So I was like, okay, I've got to come up with 8 minutes of my best stuff. And that's just what I did, because I didn't have any like guideline or any sort of knowledge of how it's going to go. I knew it wasn't going to be the same as, oh, I'm on this show and I'm going to do 6 minutes. I just approached it as, I've got to like bring my best stuff. I've got to perform the best that I can, and I looked at it
going to
like
competitions and just being like, I really don't care if I make it. Like, I care if I make it through, but I'm not going to make the basis of whether or not I have a good night tonight.
Yeah.
Do I advance? But I've seen some people take it really hard when they don't advance,
Yeah.
and they think that they should have. I've seen someone go like, "Oh, this is bullshit. Like, she shouldn't have made it through or whatever." And it's just like, man, don't be so petty. Like,
Yeah, because the thing is, like, I wanted to make it through. I wanted to
We
go
all
as
do.
far. Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah.
And anyone who says, "Oh, I don't care," then why did you enter?
yeah,
Sort of
exactly.
thing.
Why did you sign up?
Why did you sign
I don't
up?
need that $1,000 or whatever.
Yeah, I don't need a week of paid shows. Like,
Yeah, exactly. You're too cool.
I'm too cool for that. But I know that I really wanted to get through. And I know I was excited because I got to the semifinals.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I was like a little not miffed. I was disappointed that I didn't get through to the finals, because I thought I did well enough to get through the finals.
That's
So
the
I was
other
like-
shitty part is the
Yeah.
judging situation. I mean, I don't know how they do it.
I don't know
Other-
how they
other
did it.
comedy clubs. Oh, I do. At Yucks, at least. I don't know what they do in the finals, but in the preliminary rounds, it's like 2 people you've never heard of. And I'm not saying that they probably have their own qualifications or reasons they were chosen or whatever, but it's still 2 people, and 2 people have their senses of humor, and now they get to pick what's the best.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's clear cut and it's obvious, but
Yes.
other times you're kind of like, well, I don't agree with that guy's opinion, but what are you going to do?
And then the voting, like the audience voting, and yeah.
Well, oh my god, that pissed me off in this competition. The one I was in the same competition as you. You made it further than me, which is like not that I'm so amazing or anything, but I was just like, fucking go, Simone. Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. Because I had people saying, "Oh, don't worry if you don't make it through the prelims. You might not make it through the prelims."
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I'm going to make it through the prelims just to piss you off. Like, don't tell me what I can and cannot do. Sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Then you're challenged. You
Yeah, I was like,
even
I'm
harder.
making it through.
I remember being pretty bummed out because in previous years, like if you made it through the first round, you were in the semis, or I believe so, at least in some other year I've done it. Whereas this year they made like some retroactive post where it was like, those actually weren't the semis, those were the quarterlies. And I was like, goddamn, now I told all these people I made it to the semis.
Because I remember thinking, like, it's weird that they're like 18 people in the finals. Like, that's a really big.
I think it might have just been this year because of COVID. Like, they wanted to start earlier, obviously, and then they had to start in like September or something like that.
And there were a lot of, because how many? There were like 12 or 13 preliminary rounds.
Yeah, it seemed like it went on forever.
Yeah, it went on forever, and then so it was the prelims and then the semi-quarter. I don't even remember. I think it was prelim, quarter, semi, then final, I think.
Yeah. But I was trying to think of whatever I was wanting to go with this. We were talking about the pandemic and how you said you were circling the drain. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wanted to just talk about the pandemic and what, how's it been going for you? I read that you moved during the pandemic. And so I know there's a story there. But because I recently, I think you have a good point about like being busy and keeping yourself creative.
Yeah.
Because I wrapped season 1 of this show at the end of October, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a few weeks or whatever to just chill out because it's a lot of work doing all this shit by my dad helps, but doing the rest of my life and then editing and all this crap, I was pretty drained. Mm-hmm. And I found that the first couple of weeks were all right or whatever, but once I started getting restless, like my mental health started going on the decline. I mean, I didn't totally have a crisis or anything, but I was pretty close. Like I was having so much anxiety and like daily panic attacks, and now that I've started kind of getting the ball rolling again, it just kind of alleviates, and there's something good about feeling productive.
Right.
It's this satisfying, uplifting vibe. So,
exactly.
I always tell people like that are stressed out or going through something, like try to create something. Try to, even if it's just a stupid picture that you're not going to show to anybody.
Yeah, something. Because you need something to, like, for purpose or something like that. Because, like, I was working from home. Like, I haven't been in the office since March 3rd.
Okay.
Because that was my last day of work. Then I was on vacation for, like, a week and a half.
And when you're on extended vacation.
Yeah, exactly. And so I came back to people fighting over toilet paper and stuff like that. And
that's so ridiculous.
It's crazy. Like, I came back on the 12th. Like, I flew out of Montreal. We got back on the 12th, and then I drove back to Ottawa that night.
Right when shit was hitting the fan.
Yeah, because I was like, because they were saying for Quebec to like isolate yourself for 14 days right away, and I was like, I need to get back to Ottawa. I can't be stuck here. I've got to get back to Ottawa. And
you renegade.
Yeah, so I like middle of the night drove back. Yeah. So I drove back like that. Excuse me, like a couple of hours after we landed, and I think it was the Saturday I met my manager. She gave me my laptop because I left everything at work. I didn't expect,
of course,
the world to shut down, sort of thing. So I got my computer from her, and then from the Monday, I'd been working from home. But prior to that, my landlord informed me that he was selling the condo that I lived in.
Brutal.
And I was like, oh my God.
Come on.
So he told me in February, and I knew I was leaving at the end of March. And I found another place in the same building, thank God, just 2 floors down. Just I knew the pandemic depression started to kick in because I didn't do anything. I had ordered like moving supplies and everything, did nothing. And it was like 2 days before the move that I was like, oh, maybe I better start packing. So I started packing like Wednesday, and I was moving Saturday. And so it went badly and all kinds of stuff.
Well, it's not the time you want to be in like the communal elevator.
Yeah, because I was worried, what if they cancel, then I'm screwed and all kinds of stuff. And so that happened. So that managed to get everything out of the old apartment into the new one. And then about a month later, started having pain in my jaw. Turned out my back molar was cracked. So I had to have surgery in the middle of a pandemic. And they were like, we put you under, so you got to have somebody come and pick you up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I live alone. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I can't, who am I going to ask to like come?
Uber or something. I guess. Yeah,
sort of thing. So one of my friends that I met in the comedy class, she's like, I'll take you. So I sat in her back seat. We're both wearing masks. She drove me there. Had the surgery. She came back and got me and took me home. So that was, And I was like, I looked like I was beaten about the face with.
That must have been so painful.
It was
Cracked molar.
actually, it was, yeah, the cracked molar was so painful, but I had relief after. Even though I was all swollen and bruised, I was.
The source of the pain is gone.
Is gone, exactly. Because they're like, just eat soft food. And I'm like, ribs and stuff like that. You know, I'm like, I don't care. I don't feel pain.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so, and like I live alone. I have my cats, but I live alone. And so it just, you know, like like anything else, like the first couple of weeks of something, you're like, oh, it's fine. You know, I need the break or whatever. But as stuff started, you know, because at that point we didn't know. Because they're like, oh, just 30 days.
Yeah, it was all up in the air.
Yeah, everything was up in the air. Nobody knew 30 days. So it's like, okay, 30 days. Oh, well, maybe 30 more days. And then when it hit like 3 months, 4 months, I remember I was just, and things are getting canceled and everything.
That isolation must be pretty brutal.
It was brutal. It was brutal. And so, because I was alone 24/7, couldn't go out, you know.
Working from home.
Just in the same space.
At least you had your job still, though.
Yeah, exactly, you know. Exactly. I still had my job and everything. And my cats are like, why are you here? Sort of thing. Like, get the hell out. Like this. But yeah, I remember it was, I think like end of May or something, just one day just crying the whole day. Just crying the whole day and just feeling like hopeless. And at that point I was like, I have to do something. Like, what could I do? And I was like, I got to create stuff. So that's when I joined all the groups.
I was going to say, this is a good segue into you started doing your own shows, too. I know you said, I don't make videos, but I was about to say, well, you kind of do. We talked for 2 hours on your show.
No, but I was like doing like YouTube videos. Like I did a makeup video, and then I did one where I was waxing my eyebrows and stuff.
I think I saw that, actually. That's pretty funny.
And I was like, like this. It was funny, but I was like, I
don't want to do this every day.
I don't want to do this all the time. And so I was like, the thing that really felt was that I really missed was like interacting, not just performing, but like interacting with other comics, just, you know, talking with them and everything. And so I was like, that's what I'll do. Yeah. You know, I'll contact a bunch of people, ask if they'll talk to me.
And that's when I sort of like, you came more on my radar. I saw your name on performance lineups and stuff. Right. And I had an idea. I think we were Facebook friends or something. But when I started seeing those, I was obviously like, I mean, I do this show. Yeah. So I was drawn to that, and you seem to be a really like natural host, and you really got great conversations out of people. So I was like secretly like waiting for you to ask me, like, please. And then that was just a blast too.
Yeah,
like,
it was fun.
We talked about it. So it's funny too because I think that I don't know if you've broken it since, but I think that was the longest episode you had done.
Yes.
We talked for like 2 hours, and then I just did JF's podcast. You know, what is it called?
Happy Hour with Sad Comedians.
Thank you. And we talked for like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something too. Yeah. So that's my thing. I'm trying to break records on everybody's show. Okay, so you had a few though, right? Because there was Shooting the Breeze, which I was on, and you had that was kind of your main one, I think.
Yeah, that was the one I did myself.
Okay.
And then I did one with Don Zanklin called Black Don't Crack,
which is obviously true. This 53-year-old Nubian princess here. No, honestly, God, you have amazing skin.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I'm not just trying to blow hot air up your ass. I've told you this before. I could not believe your age. I don't know if you know Terry. He's a good friend of mine. But I told him last night, and he could not believe that you were 53. He was
I can't believe I'm 53 like that.
Yeah, getting old is weird. Yeah.
It's weird, yeah.
I'm almost 35. I know that's young to you, but it's all relative. It feels old to me. When I go like, I'm a 35-year-old with 3 kids, I don't process that. I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
I love where I'm at, but I still feel like I'm like 21 in my head.
Yeah, me too. Like,
time,
I still feel like I'm 30 sort of thing, you know. But
like, I just got all these headshots, and I'm trying to get more back into acting. It's not something I've done in a major way, but it's something I've always enjoyed, and I think I have a decent knack for it. And the woman who took the photos was saying, like, oh, well, like, you've got a lot of looks, and I think this one in the suit, you really look like you could be like a lawyer or a detective. And it's like, I was talking to Kelly today in the car about just, if let's say I got a role like that playing a detective, it would be so weird because in my mind, I'm like, detectives have to go to school for a long time and like learn a bunch of shit, how to shoot a gun. It's like, I can't be that old, but like, but I could play that and people would be like, you know, it's believable.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, he's a detective.
It's just weird how we perceive ourselves versus how we're seen by others, you know?
It's true. Like I always say, I wish I saw myself the way my friends see me, but I'm glad that they don't see me the way I see myself.
That's so true.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, because we're all so hard on ourselves, or at least most of the people I know.
Yeah.
Maybe because I know a lot of comedians.
Exactly. That we're all very critical of ourselves.
Self-deprecating, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're
Yeah.
like, but it's funny.
Exactly.
I'm going to cry.
Did it get a laugh? You know?
Yeah, it's a weird thing. That's why I don't get that with acting, you know what I mean? I mean, again, it's not something that I'm very experienced in, but I really I don't know, I just enjoy it more. Comedy's fun. I will always try to do it and get back to it, and I'll always go watch shows. I always be a fan of comedy. But I sometimes feel like I'm just more of a comedic leaning artist of some kind. Like, you know, like I like this show, and I get to be funny, but I don't have to be... I'm a comedian, that's what I do.
Okay.
And some people are the opposite. They're born to be comedians, and it's just like in their blood. I am not that.
Because I know I have because, you know, like lots of comedians turn to acting. I'm like, I have no acting skill. I think I was in a play in grade 6 and forgot my lines and ran off crying. Sort of thing.
See, that's the thing I don't get with acting. I've never, I get still so anxious before comedy stuff. Even if I'm like super practiced and I'm not worried about the material or anything, I still it eats me up until I'm done. Whereas when I did acting, I had a bit part in a movie I was like the guitar player in the band or whatever. And like at no point was I nervous. And we did these long days, and I don't know, it was just a different vibe that I really enjoyed.
I'm the opposite. Yeah, like I don't get, a few times I might get a little anxious, but I know like I know a lot of comedians where they're like, they anxiety vomit or something, or they feel sick or something, and I've never felt very, very few times have I felt like I'm nervous. Most of the time I'm just excited. I can't wait to get up.
Yeah, there's excitement in there too, but excitement can still be overwhelming.
Right.
For me, it's just a lot of second guessing all my shit for like a week prior to it's once I know I have a date locked in, I spend like the week before just like, you know, racking my brain, and it's not enjoyable. But acting stuff, I don't know. I just think that part of it is because like even when I film skits with my friends, there's the ability to do another take, which you don't really get in comedy.
No.
I mean, you can. If you're bombing, you can potentially turn things around. I've seen some people do that, but it's not the same as be like, hey, can we just take that again?
Can we start over? Yeah.
You know, and there's something very liberating about that. And all of a sudden, I mean, I'm not someone that's needed like a ton of takes, but it's nice to know
that the option is there.
Yeah,
like
if
you
a
need
couple
it.
backups, like, oh, that was a little off or whatever. So I don't know. Maybe that just makes me a big baby. I don't know. Okay, so with your shows, I really wanted to touch on what happened to you when you guys got Zoom bombed.
Oh my God.
And you can tell this story, but basically, in the nutshell, some racist assholes somehow like hacked into your Zoom call and started like being giant racist assholes.
Oh my God, it was horrible. Yeah, because Dawn and I used to have it on Zoom, and for the first little while, it was just the two of us. But then we were like, oh, let's open it up, and you know, if somebody wants to come into the Zoom call with us, and you know, just do stuff like that. So I think actually that was one of the last episodes we did, if not the last one. I think we might have done one after that. So so we opened it up, and we were live on Facebook, had our Zoom, the Zoom meeting going. And so people start coming in, and it's names we recognize. So I'm like controlling, like letting people in. And then so there were maybe like 5 or 6 people in, and in hindsight, I remember thinking, that's a lot. Like usually it's like 1 or 2 people, and it's usually the same people who would come in. And we had like 5 or 6 people in there, and I thought it was strange.
And a lot of people you don't recognize.
Yeah, well, some of the names were familiar, but I was like, you know, this person usually doesn't come in, or this person usually watches on Facebook, sort of thing. But I didn't think anything of it. And then I remember this video clip pops up of a body on the ground getting riddled with bullets, like somebody getting executed on the sidewalk. And I was like, holy fuck.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, I cut that out. Yeah,
because I did watch it and I heard
that's the only part I cut out.
Probably for the best.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was horrifying.
And it was real, legitimate. It wasn't like fake.
I'm not sure. It looked real. Looked real, but either way, it was horrifying. So I was like, no one needs to see that. So I shut that down.
And this person being murdered was a person of color, I assume, based on this racist. Or no?
I couldn't tell because they were face down.
Okay.
They were face down, and I couldn't see because I didn't look at it close enough.
Yeah.
But I just remember the body was face down, and you can only see like mid thigh down of the people shooting.
Crazy.
So I remember I closed that window, and then I think I booted some people out because I was like, this is weird. And then I remember somebody named Jake popped up, and we know a Jake who's a comic, who's this really sweet guy. And I remember Dawn said, Jake, I hope this is a Jake we know. And she's like, can you hear us? And then we hear this guy, can you hear me? And we're like, yeah. Is this Jake? Is this Ottawa Jake? And then the guy starts, you effing ends and da-da-da-da-da. And we were just like, I guess you saw our faces. I was like, and Dawn's like, oh, fuck you, shut up and everything. And I'm like,
You're just like, I can't even believe
yeah, exactly. And then all these windows start popping up, and I'm trying to close them. And then when I thought I had closed everything up, then this like banjo music comes on. It's like, we're the
Weird.
KKK, da 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 da.
What the fuck?
It was the weirdest fucking thing. I'd never experienced anything like that.
Who has that kind of time on their hands?
I know.
So
that's
bizarre.
That's what I don't understand. So we managed to shut everything down. We locked. I think that there's a feature on Zoom that you can lock it, that nobody else can come in. So we locked it down, and we were rattled.
Of course.
We kept going, but we were rattled. And
who would anticipate that would ever happen?
Exactly.
It's clearly like aggressive and racially motivated.
Definitely. And so we just kept going. And then I remember Dawn saying, oh, we're going to cut that out. And at first I was like, yeah, we'll just cut all of that out. And then when we got to the end of when we were wrapping things up, I said, you know what? I'm not cutting it out. I said, I'm going to cut out that part of the person being murdered.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to see that, but I was like, I'm leaving it all in because people need to see how easy it is, how unprovoked, how ugly and disgusting it is.
There's a lot of people who try to pretend because they don't want to deal with it. They're like, oh, there's not that much racism.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially not in Canada.
Exactly.
I mean, these guys may have been from the States.
Yeah.
If it's online, but nevertheless, I get your point. Like, people need to wake up and see, like, this is shit that people actually have to deal with.
Yeah.
And, white people are the most guilty of just being like, well, it's not happening to me, so...
Yeah, and you don't see it, because nobody's gonna, like, no one is going to attack me, like, say verbally attack me racially if I was standing with you.
I mean, they might, but...
It'd
be much less likely
yeah, exactly.
to happen.
Versus me by myself or me with other people of color, it's less likely. And so I said, I want people to see this, to see that it's everywhere, to see that... it's not provoked. It's totally unprovoked.
Well, to them, it's provoked because here's
how dare
two
you?
women of color doing a show
Speaking.
together. What? Yeah.
Thinking and speaking. Having opinions, exactly. Yeah. So, like, that was the provocation that, like, how dare we?
That's so ridiculous. Beyond belief.
Yeah. And it was, I remember, because usually I would, like, edit stuff like that right away. And like make sure it's up right away. I couldn't look at it for like hours after.
Well, yeah.
Like I was just, it was super triggering. And in the moment, it didn't hurt. In the moment, I was more shocked, and it was just like, just shut this down, like get them out of here. But like hours later, it hurt.
Well, yeah, you process it and start going like, what kind of human beings are...
Is this, like what's happening? Because this was after George Floyd and all the other crazy shit that happened, and it was hours before I could like look at the video to edit it.
Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that. I don't know why I'm apologizing on behalf of
it wasn't you. Was it you? Was it you?
But it's my white guilt. What can I say? You're my friend, and I'm sorry. Generally, it's the same if someone's, relative passes away. I would say, I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's unfair and it's not cool.
Yeah.
At all.
No, but like, I know the thing is that I wanted people to see it.
Yeah, you turned it into a positive by at least like bringing some awareness to that. And
because I know like a lot of people were shocked when they saw it, and I got like so many. I think Dawn did too. I got so many private messages saying, I just watched it, and like how you guys held it together, I have no idea. And unfortunately, that's part of our existence.
Which is,
you know,
makes me sick.
If I reacted to every overt, every overt or microaggression, I'd be like 24/7. That's exhausting. I can't do that.
I would say that was a macroaggression.
Yeah. That was more on the macro side.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I wanted to ask you actually then because, you know, I mean, I've said this on the show before. I don't have a ton of black friends, not because I don't want them, but just because I'm a white guy who grew up in a white neighborhood, and as I get older, I'm always trying to meet more women, more people of color. I really do want to learn from different walks of life that I maybe wasn't exposed to. And that's nothing against my parents. They didn't like not let me associate with black people. I went to a really whitewashed school though too. So this is a unique opportunity for me to ask someone, a person of color, like what was seeing and witnessing all the George Floyd stuff like for also a person in Canada too. You're somewhat removed from.
Right.
I mean, we had our own here, but I would say it was a lot more hardcore what was going on in the States.
Right.
But yeah, what was that like? Because it's basically the civil rights movement of this century.
Yeah, of our generation, of our era. It was, it was upsetting. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It was upsetting because just like I didn't watch the video. I just saw clips and things like that. I was like, I don't need to see that. But it was just like the thought that a man can kneel on another man's neck and not think that this might kill him.
Especially someone who's supposed to be like
who's supposed to protect us. Exactly. And despite, you know, people all around saying you're hurting him, you're killing him, he can't breathe, and the man himself begging for his life, like and
over 8 minutes.
Exactly. And his fellow officers not doing anything because there's that blue line that, you know, you don't correct or cross your fellow officers, like you back them up no matter what, sort of thing. So I felt a lot of sadness and disgust with that. I think stuff that bothered me was there was a lot of performative activism. That because the thing is, I think people think that we can't tell the difference between you mean it and you don't mean it, and we can't.
Oh, so you're saying people who attended the protests and stuff just to like look like they care?
Well, not so much the people. Not the people. I wouldn't say the people who went to protests. I feel like people. I think more online was more performative. I think because I didn't go to protests.
Well, it was also during quarantine, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, a lot of people were like, this is maybe not a good idea.
Yeah, like there was one that I wanted to go to, but I was like, I remember talking to B Black about that. Yeah. Actually, I interviewed him the same day he had gone. I think it was a Friday, and he had gone. Yeah, and he had gone to a rally at. I think it was on Parliament Hill, and I had wanted to go, but I was like, I don't want to get caught up in if violence erupts.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to get caught up. We're in a quarantine first. We're in pandemic. We're supposed to be in lockdown, so we really shouldn't be going out. But I was like, I don't want to get caught up in anything. And you know, if you look up like how to do activism sort of thing, one of the first things they say is don't go alone. And I would have been going alone.
Well, I wonder why that is.
They say because they're always troublemakers, like people who go there with the express intention to cause shit. They have nothing. They may or may not have anything to do with the cause, but
so
they're there.
If you go alone, you might get pegged for one of those people.
No, you might get like
just
attacked,
harassed by them.
Yeah, harassed by those people because they'll see you as, you know, like a herd of sheep, and like one sheep's alone, and like all the wolves go after the one that's
the wounded gazelle.
The wounded gazelle, or the old. I'd be the old sick one. You know, that's, you know. So I was like, okay, I don't want to go alone. I've never been much. I'm not a big activist type person, and I wanted to go, but I just decided against it because I was afraid. You know, so I feel like people who, you know, put on their shoes and put the jacket on and go out, I feel that that's like they mean it. They're sincere about it. Putting a black square on your...
Oh my God, I was just going to say.
Putting a black square on your profile picture.
And you not going to the protest, like at least from a white guy's perspective, I almost think like it's great if people of color want to come out and protest, and obviously I understand why the motivation, it's affecting them directly. But they're not the ones who should be coming out. The people who should be coming out are the white people and the people who need to be making these changes, and the people who unfortunately are running a lot of these institutions, like corrupt police forces and stuff like that. So you not going, like, I would never be like, psh. Like, you get a kind of a free pass because you've been dealing with this shit your whole life. Like, you definitely understand, you know, unless you're one of these weird black Trump supporters or something, which I don't even understand. But okay, that's bizarre to me.
That's so weird. It's
I was
so
wondering if they're
weird.
just getting paid off. Or...
It's crazy. It's crazy because I'm like, is this a joke? Because how could this be real? But yeah. So and I had a lot of people. I know they meant well. But they would be like, well, what can I do? What should I do? And I'm like, how about you Google something? Yeah. Google it. You know, it's like, why do I have to do the emotional labor?
Well, that's what I did. I felt very much like I want to help, but I don't know how. And the black square shit to me was like the dumbest. That's like literally the laziest thing you could do. Well, I changed my profile picture on Instagram to a black square. So, you know, check that box. Like, what the fuck? That was the dumbest shit ever.
It was so stupid.
And thank you. I'm glad that we both agree, being on different sides of, you know, the racial coin here or whatever. But I just started trying to read stuff. I started trying to read, like, oh, let's read this letter that Martin Luther King wrote in jail in Birmingham. And, you know, I learned about the atrocities of Black Wall Street in, I believe it was Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I just tried to educate myself. And I know that's not directly helping necessarily as far as, like, protesting or that kind of thing. But I don't know. It seemed like it still made me feel better about, like,
and the thing is, you're learning and you're opening
not
your
being
mind.
naive. You know?
Because a lot of people, and the thing is, it's not just white people who have things to unlearn. We all have things to unlearn. Like I have things to unlearn. And what bothered me, what I felt like kind of resentful about was people were looking to me for all the answers. And
because you're their token black friend.
Exactly. I'm like the only one they know. And I'm like, you know what? My experience is very, very different. I have a different experience to a lot of other black people. Yeah. So like, don't look at me for
their heart's in the right place a lot of the time when they're reaching out, at least. They're trying to be like, but it's weird because you're like, I'm not HR for black people. Like, exactly. You know, just fill out these forms and like, I get what you're saying. It's a little weird to have people propositioning you like that. Like,
and I was getting like tons of messages and like, what can I do? What can I do? And I was like, I said, like, the best thing you can do, and I don't know how many people would actually do it, would be to like call out racism. Like, stop making excuses for your racist uncle. Yeah. Or your racist mother-in-law.
Disassociate a lot of the time. If you can't change people's minds, get those toxic fuckers
call
out
them
of your
out.
life.
Call them out. Let them know that it's wrong. But I know, like, that
and the same thing for homophobia and all
exactly,
that.
All of that stuff. Like, exactly. Somebody makes like a trans joke or something, like, shut that shit down.
I mean, it depends. If you're in a comedy club and it's actually a good joke and it's not like in a hateful way, because I always try to say there's always humor to be found in almost anything. But
I think if you're doing it in a professional comedic setting, that's
in a respectful
one thing.
Kind of way. Yeah. But if you're just out on the street, like, oh, did you see that she guy over there, or like some stupid shit?
Exactly. So
it comes from fear, though.
Exactly, it's fear and lack of knowledge.
Yes,
you know.
I would say that the lack of or the fear of the unknown, of like, and especially a lot of people, I mean, gay homophobia, it's almost always someone who is wrestling with their own, like, I'm not sure, maybe I'm into guys, but they just like were raised so blatantly that that's evil. Maybe it's religious, maybe it's just their dad being like, I ain't raising no faggot, or whatever, you know, like that kind of shit makes me so sad, because so many people could have turned out differently if their parents weren't shitty.
It's true, and it's really
the number one reason sad. I think that we have fucked up grown-ups is fucked up shitty parents. Yeah. And I almost feel like you should have to take a test or something before you can...
You need a permit or something. Yeah. Like, you need a permit to get a dog, you know what I mean?
A human you can just,
you can just...
and sometimes it's an accident. Yeah, exactly. Good Lord. It's not a great system.
No. But I know there was one... Because I was seeing a lot of posts like, oh, thank God we are not in the States. Canada's not like this. We're not racist like that. And I remember like shutting
you're
that
Native
down.
American.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially.
Exactly. And so I remember writing a post, and I wrote this post just off the top of my head, to shut people down, to let it be known that no, there's racism here too. I don't talk about it. Fortunately in like my life, I haven't experienced a lot of it. I haven't experienced like anything like really horrible. But I've experienced it. And just off the top of my head, I wrote, these are some of the experiences that I've had.
And there was like a laundry
here
list, right?
in Canada.
Yeah.
And those were, I listed maybe at, I don't know, like 12, 15.
Yeah, I read that.
And that happened here in Canada. And those are just off the top of my head.
Crazy.
Sort of thing, and people are like, oh my God, I had no idea. Why didn't you tell? Like for certain ones, people knew the story. Like, why didn't you tell me? I would have done something. What would you have done? What would I have said?
I think when people say there's less racism in Canada, they're saying like just because there's maybe less people being like actually murdered by the police. But that doesn't mean there's no racism. It just means it hasn't gotten as blatant and extreme and
you just
fatal.
not see it's subtle here.
But then again, with the Native Americans, RCMP,
Oh yeah.
they pretty much do that same heinous shit. So
Yeah, exactly.
and imagine all the things we don't see that don't get recorded.
Yes.
Here and in the States.
Exactly. Exactly. There's a lot for everything that you see. There could be like I don't know how many others that haven't been reported, haven't been recorded.
Yeah.
It's
disturbing that you'll see like a messed up video, and then there's always some asshole in the comments who's like, well, we don't have the full context here. I'm like, they're beating him with a pipe.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. What more context do you need? I know.
Yeah,
there's always somebody who's got to play like devil's advocate, and
which is a healthy thing to do sometimes, but not when it's something like someone's being murdered or some clear violation of just human dignity. Don't be the devil's advocate on that guy.
Exactly. There's no but for certain things,
It's I don't know, it's weird because that stuff leaves you feeling kind of toxic and poisoned when you absorb too much of it, but you don't want to turn a blind eye because then you're just part of the problem. So
Exactly.
Weird.
And I think the good thing that's come out of it is that people, not just white people are more aware of like the injustices and just how ingrained it is, to the point that all of us didn't even realize that we're living under, systemic racist laws and rules and regulations, and like how far back they go, and that like Nova Scotia has a very ugly racist
I've heard
past.
the East Coast is still pretty racist towards a lot of people.
Yeah. Like I've been to the East Coast. It's beautiful. I find the people are friendly, but I know I've got my guard on just because I know the history.
Someone, I don't remember who it was, told me that they were like, oh, I was visiting my folks in Newfoundland or whatever, and there was like, they saw like a Confederate flag on a pickup truck. I'm like, are you kidding me? In Canada? That doesn't even apply to our history.
I know.
People are so dumb sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And like I see that as a symbol of hate. I see that flag as a symbol of
I think
symbol
most
of
people
hate.
do at this point, yeah.
Like it's the same as seeing like the Nazi flag for me.
Yeah.
I get this. I have the same response, like the recoil in horror sort of thing, like hate. Like I automatically think racist.
It's just strange to me that all of a sudden erupted and and it didn't happen years ago.
I think like the pandemic, the fact that we're all like confined to our homes, we're spending more time on our phones or in front of a computer screen on Facebook or Twitter.
People are agitated.
Yeah, people are agitated, and so we're just seeing, because we're spending more time in front of in front of a screen, that we're just seeing more than we did when we had other things to do.
And it just hit a breaking point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was just like a boiling point, and it just like erupted. That George Floyd was just like the pinnacle, like the
straw that
the
broke
straw,
the camel's
exactly,
back,
the straw that broke the camel's back, because there have been hundreds, thousands even.
And like I remember seeing a video where they proved that this cop had like totally planted all this drugs in this guy's routine traffic stop, and just because he was black, and maybe the cop wanted the arrest on his record or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like that shit's crazy.
And they always get acquitted. They're never, and the officer with George Floyd he got charged with something I'd never even heard, like 4th degree something. It was some
They had
weird.
to make up a new one.
They made up a new one, and it was like fourth degree what? That was like deliberate and,
Yeah.
you know, intent. There was like full intent there. Like you don't kneel on someone's neck and not think that you're going to kill them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just like, and then of course you have the but people, oh, well, he had a criminal record.
That doesn't just
So
throw
what?
him in jail. Let
Yeah,
him go to court.
arrest him. Like he shouldn't die.
What happened to due process?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, that kid who went with like I don't know guns, but he went with like a machine gun.
Yeah, I know you're talking
and killed
about
like
Kyle
7
Rittenhouse,
people.
I think his name
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you know, he has mental health issues. Well, clearly he does. If he just, but how is he still alive? Like,
No, it's crazy.
I'm not advocating, oh, kill him too, but I'm like,
no, but the amount of stories
Yeah.
you see where like what was the other guy, that Brock Turner guy who like raped a chick in an alleyway
Yeah.
and he got like 3 months or something.
Yeah.
I'm not quoting all those as facts. Like, I'm sure I'm getting some of that wrong, but the amount of times you see somebody who's white, this is especially in the States, that does something really bad and gets kind of a slap on the wrist, so
Yeah.
to speak. And then the amount of black young men who are like in jail because they had a gram of weed or something for like 20 years, like
Yeah,
because there was
exactly.
some racist judge or whatever, you know. Like,
exactly, the book is thrown at them, or they're running away because I remember there were a few years ago there were like 4 or 5 like murders in a row.
well, the hangings was the blatant hangings in the parks.
Yeah,
that
I'm
was
like,
like,
oh,
what
it's not-
fucking year are we in here? Like,
Yeah, those
We're
were
lynching people again?
lynching
Like,
people
what?
again. Exactly.
and people try to say they weren't unrelated or they were related, but it was like no, they were all over the U.S. One's in Florida, one's in
yeah, but you know, the Klan is all over the place. You
Yeah.
know, there's a network of these things, and
Good Lord.
yeah, it's awful, and it's
Ku
because
Klux Klan is ridiculous. Like, can I just say, like,
just the name, just the
the
stupid
name,
name.
the fucking outfits, the fact that they have grand wizards and shit like that. Like, who the fuck designed their organization? I'm sorry, guys. This is gonna lose me some KKK subscribers. You can go fuck yourself. I don't care. But honestly, like, beyond just what they do is horrible. They need a better PR person or whatever you call it, like a designer. Like, their whole motif, everything about them is terrible. Anyways. I don't know. Like, I don't know what
Imperial
I'm trying to
Grand
say here.
Poobah.
If you're going to be a racist group, at least do it in style.
Yeah, dude, be
I
cool
don't know
about
what
it.
What point I'm alluding to is just grand wizards. What the hell? Do you think you're magical?
They
Do you
probably
not know
do.
wizards aren't real? Like, how is that your thing you're trying to get to? I don't know. It's very bizarre.
Very bizarre. Very bizarre.
Okay, well, I mean, I think we can pivot at this point. We've gotten pretty heavy into the
Yeah.
racial stuff. I'm glad we talked about it
Yeah,
too,
me
and I
too.
was really happy to get your perspective on that. Because obviously I'm a white dude. Like, my perspective is limited to that, and I'm trying to broaden it, but what's the best way? Connect with people,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, ask people about their experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, especially people who are much more affected by this shit than me. But I wanted to, maybe this is too personal, but did you like almost die a few years ago? I remember you telling me you got
Yeah.
really sick or something.
Yeah, I had
assume there's a story there.
I had 2 near fatal experiences. The first one was in 2014. I had bilateral pulmonary embolism.
Oh, jeez.
So what that is
I was gonna
blood
say,
clots.
I'm reacting, but I don't know what that is.
It sounds scary,
scary, yeah.
It sounds scary. So what that means is I had blood clots in both my lungs.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm very fortunate because the first, for a lot of people, the first sign of a pulmonary embolism is death, is sudden death.
Oh,
and I had them in both lungs. They don't know what caused it because I went from being very active, like I used to work out like 3-4 times a week, walk everywhere, to, I can't catch my breath. I'm like super tired. My legs were
Just came out of nowhere?
Just out of nowhere. Just like one day I was like, just to walking things that took nothing out of me. I'm like,
Thank God you went to the doctor then.
yeah. So I went to the doctor, but the thing is, I went to the doctor for something unrelated.
Oh.
Because what had happened was I went to the doctor in June, and about 2 or 3 weeks before that, I had slipped in the bathtub, and I felt pretty badly. Like I was like I broke the toilet with my head, sort of thing. Like I just slipped. I pulled the
Holy hell!
Yeah, I
hit
just
the toilet pretty hard to break.
Yeah, I broke the seat of the toilet with my head, sort of thing. And I remember I'm not sure if I woke up or what. I'm not sure if I lost consciousness or not, but I just remember like realizing I'm in this weird position with my head wedged between the toilet and the bathtub, and one cat on me licking my shoulder. She's licking the water off my shoulder. Like, what just happened? And so about a week after that, I remember being at home, and throughout the day, every time I took a breath, I felt like like somebody was poking me. And it got worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point where I was like, am I having a heart attack sort of thing? And I remember just taking like 2 Tylenol, and then it went away. And I was like, okay. And so then I think it was like the following week, I went to the doctor. And so I was telling her, I think, I think my asthma medication needs to be adjusted because I'm out of breath and my ankles keep swelling up. And I had this pain, but it's because I fell in the tub and everything. And I remember like thinking back, I remember seeing her do this, like her eyes started.
Oh, shit.
And then she said, okay. And she examined my feet and everything and like listened to my heart and all of that. And she's writing out a requisition for me to go get a blood test. And I remember her highlighting some stuff in yellow. But I didn't think anything of it. And so she slides the paper over to me and she's like, there's some clinics that are open that have, late hours. So you could probably go today. And I remember thinking, that's weird because she knows whenever she sent me for a test, I'd go. Like she never had to urge me to go for the test. So I remember not thinking much of it. And I was like, okay, well, I can go to this one. But I was like, oh, it's like a 2-block walk. I can't do it.
Because you were so out of breath.
I was just so out of breath and just so uncomfortable. So I went the next day, I went on my way to work. And I stopped at one that was just easier to get to. Went, did the test, got back on the subway, continued.
Was it like a breathing test or no?
It was a blood test.
Oh, blood test.
A blood test. So, so the next morning, it's Saturday morning, I'm just sitting and I'm having coffee, and then my phone rings and it's an unknown number. So I ignore it. Rings again, unknown number. So after like the 3rd time, I'm like, if it's that important, they'll leave a message. Sure enough, they call again, they leave a message. So I listen to it, and it's my doctor. So this is like a Saturday morning. I've had the test barely 24 hours ago. So on the message, she says, I got the results of your blood test. And it's a thing called D-dimers that she suspected I had blood clots. And so this number of, it counts a protein in your blood. Okay. And it's called D-dimer. It's a D-dimer test. And so let's say the normal range is like from 0 to like 10 or something. My number was like 3,000. Like my number was just,
oh my God,
crazy high. And so she says, I'll call you back. She's like, pick up the phone this time. But in the meantime, she's like, pack a bag, go to the hospital, like now. Like, don't wait till Monday. Don't wait till tomorrow. Go now. And
sure, it's easy to stay calm in that situation.
Exactly. So I'm like, oh my God. So she calls back and she tells me all of this thing. And she's like, you have blood clots? And she said, I suspect that they're in your lungs. And, tell the nurse, this is the stuff that when you get to triage, tell the nurse this, that, your numbers, that your doctor told you to come in and this, that, the other. So I said, okay. So I packed up all my stuff and I'm freaking out. And instead of like calling an Uber, I don't know if Uber was around, but instead of calling an Uber or a taxi, I'm waiting for the streetcar. I'm on the streetcar going to the hospital. My doctor's telling me I'm dying. I was just like freaked out.
But you're probably in denial to some degree at that point.
Yeah, I think I was just panicked. I was just like, I gotta catch the streetcar. So I took the streetcar to the hospital. Dumb. So I go in, tell the nurse, and the nurse's face went like this when I told her this stuff, and she's like, okay, just wait right here. So she leaves the room, she comes back out, another nurse comes, takes my blood pressure and everything, and then she says, okay, just wait out just go to the waiting room, we'll be with you as soon as we can. Okay, so I go out there. My butt hasn't even hit the seat. The doors to the emergency room fly open. These 2 nurses say my name, and I'm like, yeah, they grab me. They drag me into the emergency room. They throw me on a bed. They open up my shirt. They're putting these EKG things on me, taking my pulse. And I remember one nurse goes, your heart rate's pretty high. I'm like, yeah, because you're freaking me out. Like, what the hell's happening? You know?
Jesus.
Yeah, so it turned out that, I had multiple clots in my lungs. And
what do they do to remedy that?
Well, they put me through what's the machine? An MRI.
Okay.
Just to see where they were. And then I had to give, until I could get an appointment with the specialist, I had to give myself injections in my belly to break up these proteins.
That must have been fun.
Yeah, and every time, like, I'm not afraid of needles, but I don't like giving needles to myself.
That's what I was just going to say. Self-administering seems like the weird part.
So I had to do that, and you're bruised. It's just the nature of it. Even though it doesn't hurt, you're bruised. But fortunately, I got to see the specialist like a few days later. This was a Saturday.
It must have been a nerve-wracking few days.
Oh yeah, because I'm like alone in Toronto. Like my parents were, both my parents were alive at that. Well, my father was towards the end of his life at that point, but my family is in Montreal. I'm in Toronto, so I was alone in the hospital, and I didn't want to tell my mom because I was like, my mom has enough to deal with right now. Let me just know let me just find out what's going on, and before I worry her for no reason. But I told my sister. I remember texting my sister and saying, okay, don't freak out. I'm in the hospital right now. I think I'll be fine, but this is what's happening.
What I have kills a lot of people.
what I have kills people, like, first shot.
Yeah. Because honestly, you were saying a lot of time that's how they find out. So you've already, like,
beat the odds.
Gone beyond that. I guess
Exactly.
You could take that as a positive.
Yeah. So I ended up seeing the specialist like 2 or 3 days later. It was very fast. And I've been on blood thinners ever since.
So there's no surgery or anything?
No.
Oh, cool.
No. So I'm on blood thinners. And the thing is, like, I'm in some, like, pulmonary embolism support group sort of thing. And again, I got out very easily because there are some people who have had multiple reoccurrences of it. There are people who have died since because they keep coming back. Some with the swelling's never gone away. You know, so it's like I got off scot-free.
So do you have any kind of long-term repercussions from...
Yeah, I've got permanent lung damage. I've got lung damage. So it's like...
I was going to smoke you on a joint.
Well, the thing is, like, I used to smoke years ago.
With cigarettes or both?
Cigarettes,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I used to smoke cigarettes and asthma. I've got asthma and everything, but I have permanent lung damage. So it's like I get winded very easily. You know, the fact that I'm fat doesn't help. But
No, but it makes it hard to exercise if you can't breathe
yeah,
properly. Yeah,
exactly. Like I do exercise, but like anything cardio is very
knocks you
difficult.
out,
It's really difficult. So, you know, that's the, you know, the end result of that for me, that I have like damaged, my lungs are damaged because of it. So I get winded very easily. I sound very breathy when I talk.
Well, I was going to say, just based on some of my own experiences, I don't have a lot of breathing issues, but I can only imagine when you're going through like an anxiety attack, and then you feel like you can't breathe on top of that.
It's that much worse. Yeah,
Good
it's
Lord.
that much worse. Because when I have anxiety attacks, it sometimes feels like someone's sitting on my chest, you know, which is frightening on its own. Panic attacks, I don't wish them on anybody.
But then you have your own unique medical history to put into that situation. Yeah.
Exactly. So that was the first time I almost died.
But there's another
There's
one?
another one. The other one was in 2018. Because I've always had like irregular period. Well, not irregular, but heavy periods.
Okay.
And I was also at the age where my periods got a little crazy because it's like, am I stopping? Is it...
Oh, just less
just
on
like,
time or
yeah,
whatever?
exactly. Just like going into
Sporadic
menopause
kinda.
and exactly just from going into menopause. And I went...
Again, how is this woman in menopause? She looks like she's 37, but we'll keep going.
So I was having like irregular, you know, like in a year I'd have maybe 4 periods. So I never knew when it was coming, when it wasn't coming.
Like just a seasonal period.
Yeah, exactly.
This is my
It was
winter
just
period.
like, yeah. So I'd be like, oh, okay, I think it's coming, sort of thing. But it was just my body adjusting to getting older and moving into menopause. So period came, and it was like heavier than normal. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I was like, I knew something was wrong, but I was like, I'm not going to the hospital for my period.
Well, it's probably a bit embarrassing. In that
Exactly.
situation. Yeah,
exactly. Because the last thing I wanted was for the doctor and the nurse to be like, it's just your period. Like,
yeah.
you're not special.
You don't want to seem like an alarmist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I didn't go. But I think by the time I was like, something is wrong, I called Telehealth Ontario. And by this point, I think I'd been bleeding heavily for about 12 days.
Wow.
And
Yeah, you really don't jump on these things. You kind of wait it out, take the streetcar.
Exactly. So I remember the nurse called me back, and I remember telling her, and she was like, well, because there's certain things to determine, like if you're hemorrhaging,
Okay.
whether it's just heavy or if you're hemorrhaging, and I fell under the hemorrhaging thing. So she's like, you should go to the hospital. You need to go to the hospital. So I took a taxi to the hospital this time. I was like, I'm not.
Did you take a hot air balloon this time? So slower.
A pogo stick all the way to the hospital.
That would not be good for cardio.
Exactly. So I went to the hospital. I went to the closest hospital to me. They really didn't do anything because they were like, you should really have gone to Mount Sinai because they have an on-call gynecological service.
Yeah.
Like they have an emergency thing. So they did, like, they took my blood levels, and I think I was at like 80, which is like the cutoff for transfusions. So I think they called like for a consult, and they were like, give her a transfusion if her levels are below 80. And I think I was at like 85 or something like that.
But on the cusp, yeah.
Just on the cusp. And so they didn't give it to me, but they said, if things get worse, don't come here, go to Mount Sinai. So I was like, okay. So I went home. So they didn't really do anything. They examined me and everything. Then I remember the Monday, I had to go buy more products because I was going through them like crazy. And I literally parked around the corner. I didn't have a car, but I got a zip car, like a little zip car.
The rentable one.
And I had to park. There were no parking spots like right in front of the store. I had to park around the corner, and it took me like 20 minutes because I would walk and I'd just be like, and lean on the building.
Well, when you're losing so much blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
makes perfect sense.
Exactly. So
And
finally,
given your hampered breathing on top of
exactly,
that.
my damaged lungs on top
Jesus,
of it.
that's rough.
Yeah, so it was I just remember thinking like, I feel so weak. So I managed to get the stuff, got back home and everything. And it was the next day, the Tuesday, I woke up to go to work. I was still going to work. And I remember I fell down. I was so weak, I fell down. And I was like, I have to go to the hospital. I have to go to the hospital. So I called an Uber, and they took me to Mount Sinai. And ordinarily they would drive you up to the door, but like the entrance of the hospital was under construction, so he had to leave me at the street. And so I was trying to make my way in, and I kept stopping. And there was a parking lot attendant who saw me, and he ran and got an orderly or someone to come out with a wheelchair to bring me in. So, and so now I have all the papers from my visit on Sunday, and so I give it to the nurse who's taking the stuff, and I said, I went to Mount Sinai. I went to Toronto Western on Sunday, and they told me if I got worse to come here, and this, that, the other. And so they put me in an examining room. They took my blood levels, and I was at, I think, 59. Like in 2 days, it just plummeted. And so the doctor explained, you've lost a lot of blood. We're going to have to give you a transfusion. I ended up having 4 blood transfusions.
Did he give you any idea why this was happening other than menopause?
Well, the thing is, I also had fibroids.
Okay.
So there were things going on, but it went beyond like menopause. It was just, I shouldn't have been bleeding like that. Mm-hmm. And so they were giving me intravenous medications to stop the bleeding. And they had said that if they weren't able to stop the bleeding, they would have just rushed me into surgery and taken everything out.
Like a hysterectomy?
Yeah, like a full hysterectomy, just take everything out. Which I kind of wish they did. But anyway, that's another thing. So I was very weak. They gave me this like iron fructose, or iron and sugar intravenously, and 4 blood transfusions, and then they put me in a room. Like I was in the hospital for like 4 or 5 days. And I remember the first night I'd already had, I think, 2 transfusions, and one of the doctors came in, and I was scared. I was panicked. I was like, am I dying? And she's like, not anymore. She's like, had you not come in today, she's like, you probably would have died at home.
In your bed or whatever?
Yeah, I've just bled to death and just died.
They still didn't know really like what was happening?
No.
And
their main concern was just stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Get the bleeding to stop. It did stop eventually. And that was a slower recovery than the embolism.
Huh.
Because to get your blood, because there's a reason why, like if you donate blood, you can only donate blood maybe twice a year. You've got to wait 6 months, or at least 6 months before you could donate again.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because your body has to replenish, and they're only taking like a small amount. They estimated I'd lost about 1/3 of the blood in my body.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and I remember asking her, am I going to die or am I dying? And she's like, not anymore.
Which is kind of reassuring and terrifying.
And terrifying at the same time, because I had no idea how close to death I was, which I think is a good thing, that I didn't realize how close to death I was.
So how did they fix that if they didn't have to do surgery?
Medication.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I'm on a chemically induced menopause, so I'm on a progesterone that like stops my period.
I've heard that,
Yeah, so because of the blood clot issue, like that was a whole thing that made it complicated, because I was on blood thinners. So blood thinners just, a little cut, I'll bleed heavier just because of blood thinners. So it affects your period as well. So they had to consult with the hematologist that I was seeing, like, to make sure that, if we do this, we don't kill her because she bleeds to death, or we do something and then she dies because...
They're trying to pay attention to both your near-death experiences.
Exactly. Yeah. Because like she has, she's prone to embolisms, so we've got to be careful of that. She's bleeding a lot because she's on blood thinners. Like, can we take her off the blood thinners if we have to take her into surgery and all these? So they're all like these factors that were making things complicated. So right now so after that experience, they put me on like the lowest dose of blood thinners possible, because I was on a fairly high dose, and they put me on the lowest dose possible. And that's what I've been on for years. And then I'm on this progesterone. So
I can only assume both of those experiences had like a profound effect on you and how you live your life afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just physiologically, but like your mindset of like, live every day to the fullest kind of thing.
Exactly. And then because it was like a month after the pulmonary embolism, my father died. And then 5 months after the bleeding, my mother died.
Lord.
And I was like, I don't want to leave my sister alone, and, so it changes your mindset. And so that sort of is how, like, to go back to the very first question, like that really got me thinking of, I need to do stuff that I enjoy. I need to live life in a way that I don't want to have regrets. I don't want to, like, whenever the time comes, I don't want to be like, oh, what if?
Yeah, what if I tried comedy?
What if I had tried comedy? What if I had done this? What if I had done that? So I try to live it as fully as I can.
So if you're ever out there at a show laughing your ass off at Simone's jokes, know that it's all because of tragedy.
Exactly. It's all tragedy. All trauma and tragedy.
Speaking of which, I watched one of your recent sets, and I have to say one of your jokes made me laugh so hard.
Which one?
You were talking about, is anybody here DTF?
That's a new one.
The funniest shit ever. She says, anyone here DTF? Which, I don't know, Dad, you know what that stands for, right?
No, but let her tell it.
Okay, well, yeah, sure, I don't know.
Okay.
Wait, he has to know what that means, though. You don't know what DTF stands for?
Nope.
It's down to fuck.
Down to fuck.
It's like, are you DTF? It's like a dating thing. Or
yeah,
whatever.
Exactly. Are you, yeah.
Tinder, yeah.
Yeah,
whatever.
Tinder acronyms sort of thing.
So, I don't want to put you on the spot. I just love this joke.
That's a new joke. That's a
great.
Brand new joke that I threw it in last week. Yeah, when I was in Cornwall. I thought about it like the day before at Cornwall. I was like, I've got to put this in. Yeah. So okay, so it's like I say, hey, like, anyone here DTF? And you had people, woo, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I'm always DTF, dying to fart.
And then you talk about like going, I can't wait to get to my car.
I can't wait to get to my car.
Oh man, that's classic. Oh Jesus, I'm looking at my list and I think we honestly went through almost everything.
Oh, cool.
So that means we get to do the fun question at the end, which
Okay.
last season was all about having a superpower. You don't know that. No one knows the new one other than Rick Campanelli from last week. So the new question for this season is, if, and it's a big, wide open one. If you could be transported to any place and time in Earth's history, when and where would it be and why?
Only the future. I'm not going back.
Oh, I never thought someone would go to the future.
I would never go. Yeah, I'm not going back to like the 18th century, a southern plantation or something like that. No, future only.
Okay, interesting. I had never even considered the future.
Yeah, the farthest back I would go would probably be maybe the 80s. I loved the 80s. I had a good time in the 80s.
With no specific event or anything like. This is a weird question. I guess I'm kind of just testing it out. I'm wondering. Some people I'm expecting. Oh, I want to see a real dinosaur, or like, because just for a day, I should
Right.
mention. You
Oh,
get
just
to
for a
come back.
day?
Yes. I should make sure to remind people of that. For one day, you get to go somewhere and experience whatever that time.
Can I interact with people who are there? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. It's it's a wide open question.
Because there are things that I would love to experience again. And they tend to involve like when I was younger with like my parents, like say
Nostalgic.
a favorite
Yeah.
holiday, like a specific Christmas or a vacation we went on, something like that.
That's a nice answer.
You know, yeah.
And the future is interesting too, but I don't think I would ever want to go to the future just because what if you're like, I'll go to the year, blah, 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 and you get there and it's like nuclear wasteland. What if it's worse is what I'm saying.
Because the reason I said future is that I'm assuming that things will be better for women and people of color in the future versus
what you know of
the past. Yeah, versus what I know of the past. Yeah.
I guess I didn't really consider this from everybody's perspective. I was just like, this will be fun. I want to meet Freddie Mercury. That's the kind of answers I was expecting.
Okay.
But maybe I'll rethink this and retool it a bit.
Sorry.
No, not even. No. I'm sure I'll still get fun answers from everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
I like the open nature of that question. But anyways, yeah. So not going back to racist times. That's kind of a no-brainer, I guess. Yeah.
No plantations, like nothing.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you for the invite.
I knew
This
this
was
would be fun and easy to talk to you. So anytime, we will do this again, I'm sure.
Oh,
at some
I'd love
point down the
to.
line.
That'd be great.
I guess that's it, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you. We
thank
usually
you.
high five or we do the jail hands.
Whoops.
Well,
Sorry.
Okay, see you later, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.